Takes Radio Company, connecting you with your audience. Another edition of Conversations from the Transformation Zone. Yes, we enter into the zone to learn more about how we can make a difference in the world. And could it be that to be successful in doing good things, you need to learn the lesson of birds and snakes? Let me tell you the story. Greeting, friends, ladies and gentlemen, whatever way you would describe yourself. And as I say, that's oftentimes at least an aspiration. So here we go again. And this is another Friday. And on Friday, from time to time, we try to join with you in what we call the Transformation Zone. We are involved under the leadership and the mentorship of Joe Pine, who is putting together the book on the transformation economy. And it will be the book, and there's all kinds of other things that we are about. And the whole idea is involving that there are transitions, and there are changes, and there are mutations, and there are all kinds of things that can be called a change. However, there's a special kind of an experience of change, which we can say is more than a change. It is things are transformed. That means their very form and maybe even their very function is transforming and has been a result of a transformation. Now, those of us who are within the Jewish tradition, and I celebrate a little bit of that, though that is not my faith. This is the weekend of Passover. And of course, that was a celebration of a transformation that took place. And the children of Israel in the story, as a result of that rather wild and crazy and tragic encounter, they were set free. Pharaoh said, "Go." And after 400 and some years, the people of Israel, of the Jewish population, they were set free to go to the new Canaan land and start over again. So that is a celebration of transformation. Those of us in the Christian tradition, this is Palm Sunday, which was a transforming event in which Jesus laid it down, and that's going to lead to what is called Holy Week and the events of that time, and then what is practiced and preached by those of us of faith, that Jesus rose from the dead. That's not usual. Indeed, a transformation. Well, if I can kind of put those things together and then maybe bring it down from the purely transcendent to the purely practical, from the transcendent, let me do this. One of my mentor heroes, both in terms of his broadcasting skills and, of course, his ability to be a very powerful speaker, was a man who died in 1979 after an illustrious religious career and by being a world-class broadcaster. His name was Fulton Sheen, and he was one of the first. Obviously, Billy Graham in the 1950s learned about the power of television, and that's another story. But Fulton Sheen, even before that, began to realize the power of television. And he actually did not involve himself in what would be called religious television. He actually had his program right on one of the powerful market channels. And by the way, his 30-some minutes called Life is Worth Living. And that was the theme. And it was spiritual and practical teaching, oftentimes very practical, coming from New York City. And it was on one of the major broadcast channels, and it traditionally beat some of the big stars. His ratings were right up there next to, again, this dates us, Red Skelton, Milton Berle, Bob Hope. He could hold his own with the television ratings, And there he was. And I would encourage you, if particularly you want to know a little bit more about the use of the media, how to use it well, how to perhaps be involved in some transforming work, you might find that he would be a good mentor. You don't have to necessarily believe as he believes or think, but watch his style, watch his performance, watch how he turns a television program into something that had an incredible transforming power. And he had a multi-million audience. So I'd encourage you to do that. But here's what I particularly want to. He primarily used one time an expression from Jesus, um, and it was something like this. And this is where the title comes from. You know, birds and snakes. He was warning his followers that the world was tough. Yeah, and yeah, it's tough. It's tough out there, and it's going to be tough for you. Um, by the way, those of us who are involved in doing significant things, remember, nothing significant is usually accomplished without a bit and maybe quite a bit of suffering. You know, to have a gain, you might have to do the pain. And so he was telling them, and then he used this expression: when you go out there, um, beware, beware. Um, and here's what I want you to do: be gentle as a dove and wise as a serpent. Now, that is in the book of Matthew, if you want to check that out, the testimony of Matthew. And wow, what does that mean? Well, I said, Doves and Serpent Society. That's one of the names I gave it. And Fulton Sheen said that that was one of the most important verses in Scripture because it's teaching us a unique lesson in how to live. And it's very paradoxical. You'd say, well, am I supposed to be gentle or like a dove? Or am I supposed to be a snake, a serpent? Which am I to be? And he would say, yes. And one of the key things about people who are in the transformation zone is they understand the power of paradox. And that's where two things who are what are seemingly opposite can both be true. That expression, well, if you want to be a winner, you have to lose. Well, I mean, which, win or lose? Yes. If you want to be first, you have to be last. If you want to get, yeah, I want to get something, you have to give something. Well, what's the answer? Well, the ability to embrace what the power of paradox is in not only how we think and how we work is fundamental. I'll tell you that in many years of life and in 40 some years of performance coaching. Men and women who've learned how to be comfortable with uncertainty. They don't need to, they're risk takers. They know that security does not exist. The only security is in no security. Again, another paradox. But what he was getting at is that in effect, you've got to be savvy, street smart, maybe tough, maybe a little bit scary, maybe a little bit dangerous. You might have to have an edge to you know. But then a gentle dove, a peaceful dove. You need both qualities. Now, my good friend Kevin has been very much introducing us to the fact that most transformations fail because people avoid preparation. And so what I'm saying is part of our preparation might be to, and the word mindset is overused. Let me just put it this way, a state of mind, a state of being. And I would say even maybe a state of courage, a state of force. a spirit state, maybe a spirit state um, in which you embrace the very idea you're ready, that you may have to play both parts. There will be parts where you're going to have to be tough, uh, be smart, be savvy, be be streetwise. You're no fool. At the same time, you have humility. You have, you know, uh, an easygoing kindness, a gentleness. Be gentle as a dove and savvy as a serpent. I don't know what that means to you. It's something that I oftentimes said in my coaching. If you think there's some truth in that, then figure the boundaries and the borders and the behavior that you need to prepare in your life and business and in the work you do, so you're ready. You're ready to dance between serpent, snake, and bird and dove. You're learning the qualities of both. And what Fulton Sheen said, because he was a practical guy, he was in the broadcast business, and he knew the world of New York City. In that sense, he said, I'm like the guy Trump. I live where the living is tough. And you got to be aware. There's great things in New York City, and there's really tough things in New York City. So just please think about that as you're putting your life stage together, and as you're learning how to do your performance in the transformation world, the transformation economy. Work on yourself. What do you need to change? What do you need to think so that you might be, as Fulton Bishop Sheen said, these are important words if you want to live and live well. So figure out what the Jesus wisdom is in that and how it might work for you in life and business and in the changes and the transitions and some of the terminations and tragedies. They all will happen. How are you going to live well in the midst of the turmoil of life itself? I wish you well in that. I wish myself well. I need a lot of help in that, and we need to help each other know how to pull that off. Wise as a serpent, gentle as a dove. Just let that sit on your head for a while. All the best. Have a good weekend. Have a good week. And be aware. They're both are out there, but you're living in a world of transformations. So prepare well. Prepare well for all you do. Till next time, all the best and blessings to you, and bye for now.